Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Bobcat Breakdown. I'm Brian Schwartz, and I'm thrilled to be joined tonight by Josh Silverman and Dylan Fear. And guys, are we ready for battle?
I believe this is the third time we've been on together, Josh. And I didn't even think, let's be honest, I didn't think you would show up tonight. But I'm glad you're here, and let's get this thing going.
Trying to get an education, Dylan. That's why we're here.
Not here to play school?
Wow. Well, you're here in an extra year. You, I don't know if you need it or whatever, yeah.
Well, you guys are both here now, so let's get it going. The Quinnipiac women's basketball team defeated Marist Sunday in double overtime. The win clinched the Bobcats another MAC regular season championship. Does clinching the regular season title mean anything? Josh, why don't you start?
I mean, obviously it means something. First of all, it means they will automatically have a postseason game. The winner automatically plays in the WNIT. The second thing it means is that they will not lose the next two games in the conference. I'm confident saying that. They will go undefeated in the regular season, never lost. My boy, he's not my boy, LeVar Ball, he's not. But I like that saying, never lost. It's true, it applies to this team in the regular season. I don't really understand how it doesn't mean anything. It means a whole lot. They will go into the MAC tournament without having lost to any team that they will potentially face. How that is not meaningful of anything, I am unsure of, but I'm sure you will try to convince me of that in the next couple minutes.
That's two different things you're talking about. The first thing that you said was they're going to play, every team they're going to play in the MAC tournament, they've already beaten. That doesn't mean anything to do with winning the regular season. It's two separate things. You could still play teams you have already beaten and not won the regular season.
I know, but this team will have both of those.
I agree with you with the WNIT at the absolute worst is what's going to happen to this team. So you've already clinched a postseason berth, so there's that.
Right, it's a fact.
Right? No, I'm saying that's what it means.
I know.
You've won 4 straight MAC regular season titles, so you've dominated the conference. You own this conference. You used to be hunting, now you are the hunted. And so they've shown that they're clear-cut the best team in the conference. But that's pretty much about it. Because in mid-major basketball, you have to win the conference tournament to get to the NCAA tournament, unless, certain circumstances. But for this team, Quinnipiac is going to have to win 3 games in Albany if they want to play in the NCAA tournament, which is the goal here, right, Josh? I mean, if they want to get to the tournament, win a game, maybe 2 like last year, right?
Yeah.
So couldn't you make the case that it means absolutely nothing if they lose in Albany because they didn't make the tournament, which is the goal?
Well,
wouldn't you rather lose? Wouldn't you rather get 2nd or 3rd in the MAC regular season and win the tournament?
So how much does it really mean here, dude? This doesn't make any sense. Of course, dude. They could theoretically lose every game in conference play and win the MAC tournament. So what are you asking me? You're asking me, would they rather achieve their goal or have some accolade that doesn't really matter? Of course, dude.
It's significant in that you make the postseason and you've won 4 straight, but you're trying to make the NCAA tournament. So it's insignificant in terms of getting to the NCAA tournament because you could finish 11th in the MAC and win the conference tournament and make the NCAA tournament. So that's why it doesn't mean nothing, but it's really nothing without the ring, no?
Yes, okay. So I agree with what you're saying. But in terms of the domination of the conference, which I know we will talk about, that it is weaker this year, and I acknowledge that, obviously.
28th out of 32 in conference.
Right, so that's another stat. It's a fact that they're weaker.
Right.
But what I'm trying to say is in terms of confidence, in terms of you've now beat every team, and I do agree that they are now the hunted and not the hunters. So obviously, yes, they did not achieve their goal. But to be undefeated is where you want to be, obviously.
I agree with that.
Okay.
So in terms of that, yes, I agree. We actually agree. Wow.
So Dylan, give me a percentage now. What is the % chance that the Bobcats have to win this MAC tournament?
I'd give it at 65%. They are the regular season champions. They've beaten, as Josh has said, every team going into Albany, barring a loss in the next 2 games. But again, mid-major basketball, it's never a given that you win your conference tournament, whether it's mid-major basketball or high major or low major, whatever. It's hard to win your conference tournament because you have to win 3 games in 4 days or what have you. And if you look at women's basketball last year, 32 conferences, only 16 conferences had the same team win the regular season championship outright and the conference tournament. That's half, Josh. So it's not a given that this team is going to win 3 games in Albany. We saw last year, even though they won 3 games, how tough it was to win those games. Each game, quarterfinals, semis, and the championship game were all hard wins.
They were. They definitely were.
So, mid-major basketball in a conference tournament, wins are hard to come by. And so I put it at 65% chance. I know they're really good and they're clearly the best team, but again, they played Marist close twice. It took double overtime
it was 6 points both
to beat them. Exactly.
Rebecca
Hand had the flu in the second game. So who knows? I put it at 65%.
I have it at 90. Why
Of course you do.
Why is that laughing? Can you explain to me why you have it at 65? Can you just explain that to me?
90. I just explained to you why. I just explained to you why.
But which
65.
team though? Which team is gonna to dethrone them? That you
Marist, have you not been following the season? We just said both games were 6-point games. The second one took double overtime. It took 50 minutes. And Rebecca Hand, Marist' best player, had the flu. So you don't think on a neutral court there's a possibility that Marist could win? We saw 2 years ago Quinnipiac. Hold on. 2 years ago we saw Quinnipiac was the best team, and Iona won in the championship game.
Well, Ali Martucci tore ACL in the previous game.
First of all, it was Marina Napolitano. First of all,
I'm sorry.
And it was a 16-point game. So I mean, I don't want to talk about if Napolitano was healthy, what would have happened. But it was a 16-point win. I'm pretty sure it was 57-41.
So obviously, if there's an injury, that changes everything. I'm not planning. Okay.
Well, apparently the injuries to Quinnipiac don't change anything this year, huh?
Oh, you want to throw it back? A little throwback action. We'll get to that maybe.
So 90%.
90% is my answer because I don't see any team beating them when you beat the team on their home court, right? I know it's a double overtime game. But Marist, if you watched the game, Marist played really well, and Quinnipiac had a lot of slip-ups. Marist didn't make their free throws, though. That is something that could change in the tournament. I know Rebecca Hand had the flu, but to say that this team, I mean, maybe 90 is a little high. I'll go down to 85, but it doesn't make that much of a difference.
Okay, fine.
Because
So let me ask you. So then 85 or 90, where does the other 10 to 15 go? Does it go all the way to Marist? No other team has a chance. No other team has a, okay, 0%.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. I mean, I think 65 is right about right, Brian. 90 is just a little too high for me.
65, 90. We'll check back in a couple weeks after the MAC tournament. So now let's transition to the ice and the whiteboards. Josh and Dylan will have to write down their answers to these rapid-fire questions about Quinnipiac women's ice hockey as they approach the opening round of the ECAC playoffs against St. Lawrence. Guys, are we ready?
Oh, yeah, let's do it.
born ready.
Love to hear it. First up, does the lack of scoring concern you for this women's ice hockey team? Yes or no? Josh and Dylan, write down your answers and show me those whiteboards.
My beautiful handwriting. Yeah.
Yes.
It's kind of concerning.
Why?
Because, so in their last couple of games, they've scored 4 goals twice and been shut out twice. So it's concerning, but they've shown that they can score. Now, we're going to get into other factors that concern me more with the scoring. But, yeah, it concerns me. It's not too bad. I mean, they've proven they can score. It can happen again.
This is the thing. If Abby Ives is out,
well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. There's other
and
factors.
you put Allison Small into net and you're a freshman in a conference tournament, it's going to be tough. You know, if you're going to have to score if you're relying on a freshman in net. So Sydney Rossman's not coming out there. Chelsea Layden's not coming out there. We've seen them against St. Lawrence this year. They've lost 4-2. They tied 1-1, so they haven't beaten the Saints yet. You know, it does concern me in terms of you have a freshman in goal, and it's going to be hard to stop the Saints.
Next up, guys, how important is this senior class to this program? We know they have a lot of key players here, so what would you say?
You want like a number? Or?
Yeah, give me 1 to 10. 10 being most important, 1 being not important at all. Dylan, why don't you start?
I have a 6. Okay, so...
Oh,
well,
6.5.
Well, here's the thing. Alicia Barry's the captain. She's important. Locker room, she's good. But if you look at the top 5 point getters on this team, none of them are seniors. So you have to go to Raquel Penoyer, 6th on the team in points, 4th in assists. But if you look at the main point getters are not seniors, they're coming back next year. So in terms of locker room, yes, important. Your captain, your assistants, upperclassmen, seniors, that's important. But in terms of production, so I put it at a 6.
I mean, I agree with everything you said. You know, when you look at the point totals, it's not, you know, I have to go down to a couple of people just to find someone that was a senior that had a ton of points. So, you know, it's obviously locker room. You don't want to lose anyone. It's unfortunate that, you know, obviously this is how college works. You can't just re-sign players, but I think the team would even be better next year. So if the team's going to be better next year or compete at a similar level, they really can't be that important to the team right now. Obviously, they're storied, and you know they've really built this program.
It's weird that we're agreeing.
I like it.
Let's see if you agree on this final one, guys. Quinnipiac, St. Lawrence, ECAC postseason, first round this weekend. Does Quinnipiac win?
All right, I'll go first. No. They don't win. I'll tell you why. First of all, they've played St. Lawrence twice this year. First time, lost at St. Lawrence 4-2. Second time at home just a couple weeks ago, it was tied 1-1, and now Abby Ives isn't playing. I know the new goalie has put up good stats, but when she's a freshman, I don't know how you put her in that spot. I know Abby Ives is only a sophomore, but she's been in big-time games before, and to have her freshman go up to St. Lawrence and beat the team that you haven't beat yet this year, I think it's a confidence thing, and it's also a skill thing. It's not an easy thing to do. I think their season's going to end.
Not only win, but win twice in 3 games on the road. Your goaltender's a freshman. They haven't beaten St. Lawrence this year. All signs lead to Quinnipiac losing in this series. I have St. Lawrence in 3.
Both
So
St. Lawrence.
you say 3 or you say 2?
I'll say 3.
Okay.
Great stuff, guys. As always, it's now time to take a short break, but when we come back, Josh and Dylan will pick their Quinnipiac men's basketball fantasy teams. We'll be right back after this.
Hello, and tonight on Sandwich News, we will determine what makes a good sandwich and a bad sandwich. First, the standard sandwich. Uninspired, and frankly, a little gross. But we have here a Ray and Mike sandwich, the Cadillac of sandwiches. And if you want one, well,
come on down to Ray and Mike's at 3030 Whitney Ave, Hamden, Connecticut. Open every day from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. QCash is accepted.
now that's a sandwich.
This is Sports Pause.
Are you concerned with the 0-2 start for this team?
Right here, top of the circle, again, rips it past the Jasper's goalie.
What will breaking the record mean for the program himself? I mean, 138 wins.
There's the tough shot. What a nice play by Mikey Dixon.
He's good in transition. Just a really dynamic scorer he can create for himself.
And now, Emma, it's time for the top 5 plays of the week.
Coming up on #that, we talk about some fun events around Quinnipiac's campus.
And we talk about some weird news that's been discussed around Twitter.
All that and more, we are your source for Quinnipiac's entertainment news.
Welcome to the WQAQ Morning Show. Dan Ball and Emma Spagnolo joining you here from the QAQ studios in Hamden. And Emma, it is that time of year again.
Thanks for sticking with us on Bobcat Breakdown. Guys, before we pick the fantasy teams, let's discuss the latest loss for the Bobcats. Fairfield men's basketball defeated Quinnipiac in double overtime, despite Rich Kelly's career-high 40-point effort. Dylan, who is to blame for this loss?
Oh, it's Cam Young. I mean, this team was down one, Cam Young at the line for 3 free throws with 9 seconds to go in overtime, and he only goes 1 for 3 from the charity stripe, and he's a very solid free throw shooter, around 80% on the year, and he can only go 1 for 3, forcing the game to go to double overtime, and then Quinnipiac loses on the road. He had 31 points. I mean, he played really well, 10 for 17 from the field, but in that situation, you have to make your free throws and win that game on the road. Once it goes to double overtime, I was thinking, all right, well, Fairfield's got this now, because they have the momentum. Cam Young misses 2 free throws right there. All signs led to Fairfield winning that game. Cam Young also had 7 turnovers, missed the free throws, and I'm looking at it, Josh, and I'm like, who else's fault could it be? Right? I mean, who else's fault could that game be? It wasn't Rich Kelly's. Whose fault was it?
So, I think this is a classic case of defending going at the person who made the last mistake. I mean, yeah, it is Cam Young missing those free throws, and that's something that he's going to have to deal with himself. But in defending Cam Young, he had 8 straight points between the last 2 minutes of the game, and it doesn't go into overtime if he doesn't perform at that level.
First of all, Rich Kelly was hitting the big shots. Second of all, let me ask you this. If Cam Young hits all 3 of those free throws, what happens?
Okay, they win the game.
What happens?
Right, they win the game. But what I'm saying is, you're nitpicking that. I mean, Rich Kelly had a turnover when they were down 1 with 11 seconds left.
So is it his fault?
It's no one's fault. They're a young team. Cam Young is essentially a freshman in the MAC. Rich Kelly's a freshman in the MAC.
Was it fatigue? What is it?
Is a new coach in the MAC. A lot of this team is new to all of these situations.
Well, they're not young, really. But are you blaming it on fatigue, or you're just saying no one?
Just them being a new team, gelling together, a young team. And this, I mean, sometimes you just lose. It's not always someone's fault when you lose. They don't go into overtime if Cam Young doesn't get those 8 points. So for you to blame Cam Young, all right, you're going to pick those free throws. And look, I can't defend that. And that's something that Cam Young is going to have to grapple with moving forward.
Josh, I'm not even asking him to make all 3. If he had made 2, they would have probably won the game. Right?
I mean, yeah, but they're also not in that situation without him. So for you to blame him, it is tough to blame him and not credit him for even putting them in that sort of situation.
I am crediting him.
And I understand Rich Kelly.
But in clutch time, in crunch time, he had those free throws and he didn't make them.
Right.
Didn't make them.
Right.
Well, it's now time, guys, to pick our men's basketball fantasy teams. Quinnipiac men's basketball, that is. Let's take a look at the options. Each player has been given a dollar amount. Josh and Dylan must select a guard, a forward, and one more player of any position. They have $12 to spend. Josh, your team is up first. Here's Josh's team. He took Cam Young for $6, Chase Daniels for $4, and Andrew Robinson for $2. Dylan, your team looks like this. Jacob Rigoni for $5, Rich Kelly for $5, and Alan Chiga for $2. Josh, explain yourself with your picks first.
First of all, obviously, the first pick is going to be Cam Young. He is a phenomenal player. He might not be the player of the year in the MAC. He's the most valuable player, in my opinion, in the MAC. Quinnipiac is not where they are right now without Cam Young. Now, moving on from that, and I know we have the stats. He is the second highest player efficiency rating in the entire conference. Player efficiency rating sums up all our players' positive accomplishments, subtracts the negative accomplishments, and returns a per-minute rating of our player's performance. He is second in the MAC in that category. He has 225 more points than the next player, Rich Kelly, on the team. He's 43% from the field this season and has the most rebounds on the team. He's a 6'7" guard.
So you have one good player. Is that what you're saying? Because you've only talked about Cam Young.
Well, that was my first player. Obviously, I'm going to talk about my first player first, Dylan. Thanks for interrupting me. Chase Daniels is my second player. Chase Daniels is an absolute dog. I know he's a Colin Cowherd fan. That's a huge compliment to any Colin Cowherd fans out there. Chase Daniels is a dog. I've seen him get kicked in the groin. I've seen him get bloody faces. He finishes the game. He's been playing much better since he returned from an absence. 8 of the last 10 games, he has scored in double digits. He's an elite rim protector. He's 24 blocks this season. He's the 3rd best rebounder on the team and has the 2nd highest field goal percentage. And of course, I had to pick my boy, Andrew Robinson. He's a sharpshooter, and the way we're going to run our offense, Dylan, Cam Young at the point, Chase Daniels down low, Andrew Robinson on the wing, Andrew Robinson guarding Jacob Rigoni, Chase Daniels guarding Alan Chiga, Cam Young guarding Rich Kelly. And I don't want to take anything away from anyone on your team, Dylan, because they are all phenomenal players. I had to pick my team. It was a draft. This is who I went with, and this is who we're winning with.
You called Andrew Robinson a sharpshooter? Because he's 34%. But I have Jacob Rigoni, who's 45%, and that actually is
phenomenal shooter. That's why he was worth $5.
And top 40 in the country.
Yep.
So the way I look at it is I have the best facilitator and the only true point guard on the court in Rich Kelly. Dropped 40 points last game, right? I have Jacob Rigoni, the best three-point shooter on the floor.
Well, if you want to talk about points.
Hold on the floor. Best three-point shooter on the floor. And I have Alan Chiga, the best on-ball defender on the floor. And you saw how good he was on Tyler Nelson in the overtime periods. Fantastic on-ball defender. So best point guard, best shooter, best defender. I like my chances. It's 3-on-3. It's half court, right?
Yep.
So I don't need to push the ball too much. It's okay that Rigoni and Kelly and Chiga like to play a little slower. I don't need to push the ball and risk turnovers. Just give me pick and roll with Rigoni and Chiga. We're fine.
I think my team. I don't think you have the ability to guard my team, Dylan. I don't think you have the ability to guard Chase and Cam. I don't.
How? I can have Rigoni on Chase Daniels.
I'll give me that all day. Let's do it.
Okay, let's do it. And I'll have Alan Chiga on Cam Young, best defender on best offensive player, and then I'll take my chances with Rich Kelly on Andrew Robinson, who really his only offensive game is shooting the 3-ball, but he only shoots 34%. And he can't dribble that well, let's be honest. We talked about this already. You said he would start by January 18th, hasn't started. But, so I like my chances.
Dylan, let me pose you this question. Where's your rebounding coming from?
Great question, Brian. Let's hear Dylan's answer.
The rebounding can come from Jacob Bergoni boxing out. Alan Chiga
boxing out Chase Daniels?
I don't see why not. I can rebound the basketball, and I'll score every time. So if I just get a couple of boards, then I'm fine and I win.
I got the size, and I got the team. The better team.
Okay.
I'd really like to see these guys play against each other. I think that would be
I want to
fun.
see what they think. Actually.
Well, that was fun, guys. Coming up, it's almost final roar time and the latest installment of the Bobcat Breakdown Game of the Week. Quinnipiac men's ice hockey against Clarkson. Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back. Bobcat Breakdown presented by the Quinnipiac Bobcat Sports Network.
We are your source for debate.
Did they make the playoffs last year, Tom Jenkins?
When it clicks, it clicks.
We dissect Quinnipiac athletics on a scale you've never seen before.
With Tobia, it almost looks like she's reaching a little bit.
Plus, we bring in the biggest names surrounding college sports.
We are live here at the Times Union Center with Jay Billis.
And of course, some comedy.
But you can only have so much arena food.
I think you're crazy.
Bobcat Breakdown.
Tuesdays at 9:30.
Coming up on #that, we talk about some fun events around Quinnipiac's campus.
And we talk about some weird news that's been discussed around Twitter.
All that and more, we are your source for Quinnipiac's entertainment news.
Tonight on Sandwich News, we will determine what makes a good sandwich and a bad sandwich. First, the standard sandwich. Uninspired and frankly, a little gross. But we have here a Ray and Mike sandwich, the Cadillac of sandwiches. And if you want one, well,
come on down to Ray and Mike's at 3030 Whitney Ave, Hamden, Connecticut. Open every day from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. Qcash is accepted.
Now that's a sandwich.
Welcome back to Bobcat Breakdown. Here we go. It's Game of the Week time. The Quinnipiac men's ice hockey team takes the trip up north to play against Clarkson Saturday for the final regular season game of the year. This one is essential for the Bobcats if they want a chance for home ice in the conference tournament. Guys, who wins? Dylan, go first.
I think Quinnipiac's going to win. You just mentioned how essential this was to seeding and playoffs, etc. They've already beaten Clarkson this year 4-1, and Clarkson hasn't even won in February yet. You know, they've been struggling a little bit. And Rand Pecknold said that Quinnipiac's come off a complete 60-minute game over the weekend. You know, they play St. Lawrence first, bottom feeders of the ECAC. I think they're going to win that, and then they'll have some momentum going into Clarkson, who, again, they've already beaten. And I'll take the Bobcats 3-2.
You know what, Dylan, I actually tend to agree with you on this one. And it starts at the top. I think Rand Pecknold, I mean, he's been here for so many years. He's been here for over 2 decades, that he has his team ready to go. If you've watched me on Breakdown or followed my coverage, I'm all about the coaches. I'm all about the system, especially in college. And there's no better coach and no better system, at Quinnipiac. Perhaps, I mean, there are a lot of great systems and a lot of great ones in the ECAC as well. But Rand Pecknold is at the top for both of those. So for me to pick against Quinnipiac in a big-time game, I don't really see it happening. I think Quinnipiac is able to get a win in this one.
They seem to win big games and big situations.
Yeah, when
Brian
they need to.
alluded to how essential this one was.
So what is essential, guys? The Bobcats obviously need help and wins this weekend to have a chance for home ice in the first round. How much does home ice even matter for this team? Can they win on the road? What do you guys think?
Yeah, they can definitely win on the road. They actually have a better record away from home. 6-9-1 in Hamden and 7-6-3 on the road. They haven't really had that many fans recently, as our beat reporter Jonathan Banks has alluded to. this past weekend. So they tend to play a little better away from home, and it's not that important. I mean, it'd be nice to not have to travel and stay in a hotel and pack your bags and things like that, but it's not that big of a deal.
I agree completely. Again, I mean, you pointed out the record. That's what I was going to point out. You pointed out the fans. That's what I was going to point out. And I mean, obviously, you know, you want to be able to stay home. I talked to Becker, Maine last year. Their field hockey team had to travel to Yale, and even that to play their home games was a struggle for them.
Sure.
So playing at home is obviously what you want to do, but it's not the end of this world. This Bobcats team loves a challenge. For them to go on the road and to have to win on the road, they embrace the road warrior mentality and go do it. I think this team is ready for it. They've been battle tested.
All right, guys, well, it's now time for the final roars. Josh, you're up first. What are you roaring about tonight?
Well, you know I'm roaring about the women's basketball team. Big-time players make big-time plays. The saying never gets old. After a big game, someone usually takes home that title. This week, it's Erin McClure. After a 25-point game against Marist, which clinched the regular season title for the Bobcats, I wanted to go back and take a look at McClure in big-time games. And man, oh man, is there a reason she was the preseason player of the year. Look back at last year's MAC tournament and eventual NCAA tournament run. You can see why she is such a valuable player. Each game was harder than the last, and her stats in those games, paired with the recent Marist matchup, puts McClure above her foes. She has shot 57% from the field, while averaging 16 points per game. When it's a big-time game, there's only one player that will rise above them all, and on game day, she wears number 25.
When basketball season started, one of the biggest topics of conversation centered around Baker Dunleavy. More specifically, what would Quinnipiac have to accomplish for it to be a successful season? The regular season winding down, Sports Paws ran a poll last night about Dunleavy's expectations. Take a look at this. 84 votes, 35% say Dunleavy hasn't exceeded expectations. Now my question to those 29 voters, what the hell are you on? Dunleavy inherited a 10-win team that had lost its best 5 guards and its second best big man. And it's his first year as head coach. And pretty much none of those guys have played together before this year. He has by far exceeded expectations in year one. 10 wins with at least 3 games left, 7 of those in MAC play, which is what QU had all of last year. The most important thing, though, they play tougher than any Quinnipiac team has in the last few years. Hopefully, those 29 people just had their fingers slip while voting on that poll.
It's February, it's cold in the Northeast, so let's head down south. Down there, it's baseball season, aka the best season. It is said in the major leagues, minor leagues, and college ball too. In the spring, every team has a fresh start. The Quinnipiac baseball team began their season getting swept by Abilene Christian University in Texas over the weekend. Have no fear, because these games before MAC play begins don't mean much. What means something is the new guys making an impact. Sophomores Andre Marrero, Evan Volgamore, and Dylan Lutz all have big holes to fill. Nonetheless, a new season sparks new hope, and the Bobcats have just that. Guys, quickly, Quinnipiac plays St. Peter's on Friday, men's basketball. Pick the game. Who's going to win?
Dylan, you're a beat reporter. You get home field in this one?
Well, Quinnipiac's at home. They need to win if they want a chance at that 5th and final bye in the MAC tournament. So I'm going to go Quinnipiac. Just because that home court, St. Peter's isn't that good this year, but they play great defense. We will see if Quinnipiac can control that basketball and can control the flow. But I'll take the Bobcats by 6.
I agree. I think watching the film from the Fairfield game, I think they'll be even more motivated. First round bye on the line. Got to get this one big time. Let's see what they can do.
I'm excited for Albany.
I'm excited for Albany too, Dylan.
Should be a lot of fun. This was also a lot of fun, guys. Good job.
Of course. I'll have to do it again soon.
Didn't get too heated, which is good. That'll do it for Bobcat Breakdown this week. Thank you for spending your evening with us. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at Q30Sports and at QBSN. Check out our websites, Q30TV.com and theqbsn.com. For Josh Silverman, Dylan Fearon, and our entire crew, I'm Brian Schwartz. Have a good night.